So you clicking on this video shows me that you're having trouble with budgeting your money and can't seem to find a way to start. But today I'm going to be showing you what methods I used, how to organize your bank accounts, how I look at my money as percentages, how I automate my funds, and what bank accounts I use. First things first, I don't want to claim that I came up with this method myself because I was just like you, trying to figure out how to start budgeting without feeling like I can't buy anything for myself. And where did I start looking? Here on YouTube, just like everyone else. I ended up coming across a YouTuber named Ramit, which I'll put his channel in the description below just in case you want to look more into his content. But after following his method, it helped me realize that budgeting is not always about not spending money, but it did show me how to do savings in increments, which later made me realize that saving is a long-term goal rather than a short-term goal. Let me go ahead and show you how I use this method and how it works for me. As of now, I currently have 4 accounts: a checking, a savings, an emergency fund, and an investment fund. With these accounts, every paycheck that I get gets divided by certain percentages. Now, how do I get these percentages? I'm going to show you an example with just having 3 accounts, but if you need to add more, definitely follow this format based on your needs. So let's say you get paid twice a month and these funds get sent to your checking account. Now, this may change based on how often you get paid by your employer, but for now, let's just say you get paid twice a month and you want to save up for an emergency fund and a vacation fund. The paychecks in the example are going to be $2,400 each, so let's multiply that by 2, you get $4,800. What this number shows is your monthly income. Now we have to include our bills. So let's say you have a household rent at $1,800, electricity at $240, water at $50, gas at $200, groceries at $450, and let's go ahead and throw a car in there for $400. Of course, you may have more bills to add, but again, this is just an example. So adding these numbers up, we get a total of $2,740. Now if we divide $2,740 by $4,800, we get 0.57083. Moving the decimal place over 2, which leaves us with 57.08%. This percentage represents how much we are using from our monthly income. Now, 4,800 minus 2,740, we're now left with 2,060. This is where we can now start moving extra funds to our savings buckets. Based off Ramit's advice, you should at least do 5 to 10% of your savings per monthly income. Now, this is a personal choice you have to decide for yourself on how much you want to save per month. For me personally, I would move 20%. So for this example, I will multiply 4,800 by 20%, which leaves us with 960. Since we first say that we want to have a savings buckets for an emergency fund and a vacation fund, then we will have to divide your savings amount by 2, which will leave us at 480 for each bucket. So looking back at our numbers, we now have 2740 at 57.08%, which is the cost of living and maintaining. Then we have 480 at 10% for our emergency fund, and then we have another 480 at 10% for our vacation fund, and 1100 for our guilt-free spending. What is guilt-free spending? It's your spending budget that you have each month. This can be used for eating out, buying clothes, going to the movies, just anything that you would spend your money on without even having to think about it. Now that we have our set numbers for our savings buckets, we now have to automate this process within our bank accounts so we don't have to worry about making transfers manually. As of today, I believe every bank account has the option to pull funds automatically to other accounts on a set schedule. You may have to look into your mobile app or reach out to a bank representative to help you look into this, but once you find it, you'll be able to automate your funds. Once you locate this feature, there are 2 ways to go about this. The first way is to set a schedule to move funds to the savings buckets on the first of every month. Using the example before, we would schedule our checking account to send 480 to our emergency fund and 480 to our vacation fund. The second way is to send your funds 1 to 2 days after you receive each check. I personally use this process because it helps me visualize how much I have in the checking account. Using the same example, instead of transferring 480 to both the emergency and the vacation fund, I would transfer 240 to the emergency fund and the same thing for the vacation fund. Well, isn't 240 half of 480? Well, we are doing this because we are scheduling per check. So remember, in the example, we get paid twice a month. Since we are doing per check, then we will have to divide 480 by 2, which leaves us with 240. Let me go ahead and give you a visual. So let's say that we get paid on the 5th and 20th of every month. We would schedule a transfer on the 6th and on the 21st for 240 for the emergency fund. Then we will schedule the exact same thing on these same days for the vacation fund, which will result in 480 for both funds at the end of the month. Now I know the second one seems like a lot more work, but it definitely helped me slowly start seeing the savings move up rather than waiting for the full month. It could possibly just be a mind thing, but to me using the first method made me spend more than my spending budget. So that's why the second option worked better for me, but hey, if this first option works better for you, then go for it. But going back at the numbers again, with the automation processes, it should look something like this. 2740 at 57.08%. This amount should not have any automated fund transfers because it's our living expenses. 480 at 10% for the emergency fund. We have a transfer of 240 on the 6th, and we have another transfer of 240 on the 21st. Same thing goes for the vacation fund at 480 at 10%. We have a transfer at 240 on the 6th, and we have another transfer at 240 on the 21st. Then we have 1100 of our free spend. As for what bank accounts I use, I honestly used to be a big fan of high yield savings accounts, also known as HYSA accounts. These accounts generate a high interest rates on your money. So let's say if you have $10,000 in a high yield account and have a 4% interest, you will receive $400 within a year or $33 to $34 per month. These accounts will be helpful for your savings buckets because your money will receive interest. Do keep in mind though that these interest rates do fluctuate based on the Federal Reserve, so the interest can lower or even higher based on the economy. Now, I say I used to be a big fan of these accounts, but I have recently moved away from them because when you need the money last minute, it's pretty difficult to pull the money from a high yields account since they're usually online only. So in order to get your money, you would have to do an ACH transfer from the online account to another bank that you have local access to. This process usually takes 1 to 3 business days in order to receive the funds to your local bank. Now, if both banks have Zelle, this would solve the issue, but do remember that there are limits of how much you can send with Zelle depending on the bank. Before, I would do this all the time knowing that there was a drawback until I came across an issue that I needed the money right then and there. As of now, I only bank with a credit union because I don't want any fees to worry about that many big banks like Chase, Wells Fargo, or even Bank of America throw at you if you don't follow the minimum requirements. Yes, these minimum requirements are easy to do, but in my mind, why would I pay any fees for someone to hold my money? And I know with these big banks, you do have access to physical branches almost anywhere. It's just something that doesn't sit right with me, knowing that I can be charged a fee when I don't meet those minimum requirements. Also, if you're interested in opening a high yield savings account, I would recommend Ally Bank, SoFi, or Capital One. Please remember that you will receive a 1099 INT form if your account makes over $10 in interest. Yes, this money is taxed, so if this is something you don't want to include in your yearly taxes, then I would say a regular savings account would be the best bet. After going over my personal setup with examples, I hope this video will get you on the right path for your savings goals, especially if this is something for your New Year's resolution. If you made it to the end of this video, please leave the money sign in the comments below. That way I know you made it all the way to the end. And as always, let's try to keep things simple and see you on the next one.